Yawwie News!
Well then, did you miss me? Hello everyone and welcome to episode 8 of Yawwie News, the show where I talk about some of the latest railway headlines. Yes, my friends, it has returned after over 2 whole years of absolutely nothing, but now with a fresh new look. Again, I'm really sorry for the awfully long wait. A huge amount has been going on in my life, but at this point, what else do you expect from me? Tell me though, how were your weddings? Anyway, a lot to get through in this video, so let's get straight into it. Coming up, an update on plans for Great British Railways and progress on High Speed 2. We see what new trains have entered service, as well as ones still to come. Contending for the next open access operator, could we see Virgin trains back on the rails? London Overground lines receive quite disappointing new names. A brand new operator is announced for the Elizabeth line. Mail by rail services come to an unexpected end with Royal Mail. Nostalgia for all as retro liveries make a comeback on a few older trains. And we pay tribute to more trains that were recently withdrawn from service. In our first story, yes my friends, the general election of 2024 has passed, the Labour Party are now in power, and the Tories were knocked down in the most embarrassing way possible. Is this the hope we needed for our country? We're finding out as we speak. But under Keir Starmer's government, to name a couple, we have Sir Peter Henley as our Minister of State in the DfT, a man that fires people for raising safety concerns before realising himself, and Louise Haigh as our new Transport Secretary. Somebody far more fitting for the job rather than Lord Dingus.
One of the things I've been very clear about is it's the Department for Transport, not the Department for Trains. And sometimes we spend...
Some of the new main priorities included improving rail performances and bus services, transforming infrastructure, delivering greener transport, and better transport integration. Meaning as part of this change, rail nationalisation will finally become a thing, forming under the new Great British Railways. You know, that thing that the Tories first announced then neglected because women and big ears. As a result, we should see more TOCs brought into public ownership once their franchise contracts come to an end and GBR is in full control. Right now, it's just a shadow company. Furthermore, what about updates of High Speed 2? That masterpiece of a network which doesn't go to Manchester. Surely Labour had plans to reverse that decision and bring back the Northern leg.
No.
Goddammit. What were the chances? Even after a change of government, still no line to Manchester because can't be bothered, mate. Now, whilst I can sort of see why, still, not okie dokie. Though that's not to say HS2 isn't making any progress. Construction work is still going strong and advancing really well in many areas, so the team continues to make excellent progress as usual. Plus, it is now confirmed that the line will go to Euston after all. In fact, hang on.
Breaking news!
This just in, we have heard rumours that HS2 may be extended up to Crewe.
Yes!
Actually no it isn't, they just announced that the line will still end in Birmingham. Well, there go all our hopes and dreams, and the wife's crying now, cheers. As well as that, recent images of the interior mock designs are revealed by Alstom, and I think I broke my back in multiple places just from looking at those seats. Good to know we still won't be getting luxury in these new trains it seems, but don't blame me. For now though, let's have a look at some of the alternative proposals in place which make up for the loss of the Northern leg. London Northwestern Railway proposed a new service from London Euston to Manchester via Warrington, which will be an extension of the current London to Crewe service and operated by their new Class 730s. And the mayors of Greater Manchester and West Midlands published a proposal for the Midlands North West Rail Link, which connects HS2 with Northern Powerhouse Rail. The only issue with this being it has a lower top speed and no European gauge. And some GWR services will be diverted to Euston, while the main line is closed between Paddington and Old Oak Common, with more line closures planned to take place soon. Anyway, that's all regarding 10 Downing Street and High Speed Poo. We'll get back to you when Birmingham gets cancelled and we're left with London Euston to Old Oak Common. Also in the news, more new trains have recently entered passenger service. The list includes the Class 231 and 756 flirts, Class 230D trains and Class 197 Civitas units for transport for Wales, or as I call 197s, ogres. The Class 777 for Merseyrail, which replaced the Class 508s and nearly all of the 507s. The Class 720 for C2C, running alongside Class 357s. 3rd Gen Glasgow subway things built by Stadler, which replaced the Metro Camel 2nd Gen units. More ogres, Class 196s. And the Class 730/0 for West Midlands trains, the latter of which replaced the cans of beans out of central London, and lately on the Cross City line, the Class 805 and 807 Everall for Spaghetti West Coast, or as I call them, the No Tilt Express. Basically a glorified IET with additional LED screens for once, of which, very nice. And finally, the Southwestern Railway Class 7. Oh no. I guess we're doing this again, but yes, at long last, after years of constant delays and setbacks, the Class 701 clogged arteries are officially in service, first making its debut between Waterloo, Windsor and Eton Riverside, before then steadily being introduced on other suburban lines, including the Hounslow Loop, Shepperton Branch, and the main line from Surbiton a few services a day. I've been on them a few times since their introduction, and shock, they're not all too bad. Still doesn't beat a Desiro or 455 for me, but I appreciate their welcoming interiors and pleasurable ride experience, even if it isn't perfect. And to find out my full opinion on the 701, stay tuned for my review on the adventure, which I have no idea when it will be ready since Gary won't tell me. Fantastic stuff, but how long until they start replacing other trains? Well, considering rollout is very slow currently and not many of the 90 trains are actually used in service when they work. To put it simply, not a flying clue, mate. But what I do know is that the network is still suffering from this problem big time. There's even more of a stock shortage now that they've lost the final remaining pair of Class 70.
70.
Class 450s are being used on more suburban diagrams out of Waterloo. Another Class 455 unit has been scrapped and stripped for spares, being 5917. Rest in Coke cans, my beloved. And Class 458s are turning from /5s into /4s. Trains which were destined for the Portsmouth Direct line, though aren't anymore because, oh wait, they were never even cleared for mainline use. As a result, the trains are limited to Waterloo to Weybridge and Hounslow Loop runs for the time being as they cover for 701s, ironically similar services to what they ran before, just now with one less car and a half-pointless express configuration. How lovely. Obviously it's a much needed refurbishment for the trains, however, not too keen on the seats, which suck, and I would rather prefer them running back to Windsor or even Reading, which could happen in the future, we'll just have to see. Overall, nice to see the Class 701s finally in service, but really, should have been way earlier. Oh well, still get to enjoy more of this. Oh my lords. Oh. We go underground now for this next headline. The first 2024 stock train has been delivered to the UK. Yes, London's newest tube trains for the Piccadilly line are here, as the first unit from Vienna has arrived into London, ready to begin further testing in the next few months. A total of 94 of these lovely trains are due to be built, with 80% of the construction taking place at the new Siemens factory in Goole, which is up and running and already in progress of building the first carriages. The trains are expected in service by 2025 if lucky, or if not, then probably 2026 at a push, with 73 stock trains bowing out as late as 2027. Absolutely stunning tube trains overall, although it is a bit of a letdown how tiny the windows are. Some carriages that are shorter don't even have bogies underneath. A very interesting design choice, but everything was done this way to basically keep the trains lightweight and enable fitting of aircon and other bits of equipment. Goodness heavens, that's some good TF2 engineered gaming stuff right there. Hopefully all goes well after 24 stock and we should see plenty more progress in the near future. though eventually it will mean the end of the road for the legendary 73 stocks. And speaking of TfL, not looking good for the new calf-built DLR trains. Not only do they look like horseradish with an even more bland design, initially these were planned to be in service by April, but have now been delayed due to problems with testing, which involved the train overshooting a stopping point during an overnight test run. This delay pushed back their entry into service until the end of the year. However, now they've been delayed again due to signalling issues, and that leaves them out of action until... oh dear. Looks like those B92 and B2K stock units will be hanging around for a little longer. I mean, not that I'm complaining. Also in the news, LNER unveiled the concepts of their new Intercity Express rolling stock. And we're doomed! Yep, financed by Porterbrook, these things will be the trains that will eventually replace the remaining Class 91s and Mark IV carriages in service, with construction of the 10 brand new 10-car units taking place at the CAF facility in Newport. These trains, designated the Class 897, will be of a similar design to the Class 397s, but will be able to operate on either diesel, electric or battery power, making them the first tri-mode intercity trains in the UK. They'll also be fitted with ETCS to meet future East Coast mainline signalling upgrade requirements, and eventually these are planned to enter service by 2027. Ah, what a shame. Out of all other manufacturers, they picked CAF. Ah well, you know what that means. Next, Southeastern also released a tender for new rolling stock, being a huge order of new trains that are planned to replace the aging networker fleet. Trains which are becoming increasingly tired and costly to maintain, and obviously won't be refurbished despite desperately needing one because...
What's going on? How are you doing on this fine day, my brother?
5 bidders were shortlisted, which involves an order of up to 650 new carriages, and the trains are hoped to include features like level boarding and, interestingly, batteries in case of a power supply failure. An easy win for Stadler then, probably. Although really this may be a plot twist win for Almost, after they announced their new range of commuter trains named the Odessia, which will feature level boarding and the permanent guarantee that Litchurch Lane and Derby will remain open. You see, a quick backstory. Alstom at one point was at the brink of losing their factory in Derby when they finished building the last few adventure carriages, and suffered from little to no additional orders. That was until TfL realised the Elizabeth line was suffering and ordered 10 more Class U45s to increase capacity, and then Alstom secured the deal to refurbish the cross-country voyages into...
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
And with the new Odessia potentially arriving, this could keep Litchurch Lane open for many years to come, keeping everybody happy. For God's sake, just order more Zero Cities already. Also in the news, First Group, Arriva, Alstom and Virgin have all applied to the Office of Rail and Road for open access rail routes. Yes, our old friends over at Virgin could be back on the rails after they applied for 4 paths on the West Coast Main Line between London Euston and Rochdale or Preston, meaning if permitted we could see the operator make a shock return to running trains out of Euston, competing against Spaghetti who they lost to 5 years ago. Oh Gary, not now. First Group applied for a similar service between London and Rochdale, proposing 6 return trips via Manchester and Warrington, bringing back a service last run in 2000. If successful, this operator will form as part of an expansion of the Lumo network and could commence as early as 2027. Not only that, but with First Group now in charge of Grand Union, they've also proposed 4 return trips between London and Stirling, calling at Milton Keynes, Nuneaton, Crewe, Preston, Carlisle, Lockerbie, Motherwell, and I have never heard of these other places. Grand Union also have a new service from London Paddington to Carmarthen underway, with the start date planned for December 2027. Arriva proposed an expansion of their Grand Central network, with services commencing in May 2025 if approved. And lastly, Alstom have teamed up with SLC Rail to form the Wrexham, Shropshire and Midlands Railway, an operator last seen over a decade ago, and proposed the service between Wrexham General and London Euston, with services also commencing in May next year. Plus, if successful, it would also mark Alstom's first time as a passenger operator in the UK. That'll be interesting. But take your pick. Who would you like as our next open access operator? It's gonna be First Group that gets it, let's be honest. Also in older news, every London Overground line has a new name now. As you know, TfL announced back in February that all 6 Overground routes will be receiving a new name in order to make the lines easier to navigate for passengers. The Watford DC line is now known as the Lioness line because women's football and Wembley Stadium. The North London line is now known as the Mildmay line because Mildmay Hospital, even though that's in Shoreditch, though there was a station along the line called Mildmay Park. I don't know, go watch Jago Hazard. The East London line is now known as the Windrush line because the Windrush community. The Lee Valley line is now known as the Weaver line because textiles. The Romford Upminster line is now known as the Liberty line because some rural liberty in Havering I don't bloody know. And probably the weirdest one of them all, the Goblin is now known as the Suffering line. Wait, damn it, Gary, you meant Suffragette line, you knob. Now, I understand how each name has a correlation to a historical background, but for me, they just have the same energy as Crossrail being called the Elizabeth line. They don't work as transport line names, and I can't imagine anyone using the term seriously. And if they do, they better urgently visit their local medic.
That's how I lost my medical license.
Anyway, final opinion. Brain rot.
Breaking news!
Some more breaking news for you, my friends, as TfL also announced the new operator of the Elizabeth line. GTS Rail Operations Limited, a joint venture between Go Ahead Group, Tokyo Metro and Sumitomo Corporation, will be taking over from the current operator MTR in May 2025. They'll be responsible for all future line operations, including improving services and preparing for the opening of Old Oak Commons Station. So we hope that they're up for the job and they continue to keep the Elizabeth line running nice and smoothly. Until there's severe delays across the entire line because the Great Western Mail line failed again and a train broke down in the Cure. Always happens. But also tonight, we have sadly reached the ending of a 29-year-long run, as Royal Mail has officially ceased their operations of mail by rail due to the rising costs of running electric traction, deciding to fully focus on delivering mail through other methods of transport. Services came to an end in October of this year, also bringing an end to the use of Class 325s, trains which are now life expired and heading off to the scrapyard. This is really unfortunate news, but let's take this moment to commemorate the 325s for nearly 30 years of incredible action. The spotlight now shines on Faramis Rail and their ever-growing fleet of converted Class 321s. Gary, why has there been on my screen? Iconic and classic liveries have made a return on some older passenger trains, reflecting on their history and celebrating their many decades of hard-working service. 323-221 was unveiled in a glamorous regional railway central livery in December 2022 by West Midlands Railway, commending the trains for their 30+ years of operation on the Cross City line before their final send-off. Merseyrail revealed a stunning BR Blue livery on 507001 a year later, trains of which are very nearly at the end of their time serving the network after 45 years, making it the second PEP-derived unit to sport the iconic livery after 313201, and 455868 became the third train to sport BR Blue, unveiled in March of this year by Southwestern Railway, although not quite as smoothly as expected. The unit is also completed with 12 golden spanners, highlighting Wimbledon Depot's 12 wins at the Golden Spanner Awards for BR Mark III derived trains, gaining the obvious nickname Spanners. Or as I call it, Lord Spannington. And I'm so cringe. But as Class 701s continue being prepared, 455s still have plenty of time left, so 5868 will be hanging around looking gorgeous everywhere it goes. Then hopefully preserved. Please. Although this is perfect timing to begin paying our respects, as we've come to that time once again where we've reached quite a huge end of an era. Numerous trains were retired from our network over the last couple of years, and I'd like to use this chance to reflect on the trains that we've lost. The Class 315 of TfL Rail, after 43 years of amazing service, finally fully succeeded by Class 345s following the gradual opening of the Elizabeth line, with the last unit running in December 2022. The Class 313 of Southern Rail, the last of the class to be retired after 47 years and 13 years of service on the Southern Coastway. A farewell tour was held for the trains on their final day in April 2023, seeing a huge gathering of enthusiasts paying one last tribute to the units in a truly electric atmosphere. No pun intended. The Class 321 of Greater Anglia, after 35 years of screaming along the Great Eastern Main Line, succeeded by Class 720s in 2023 despite a small number of units refurbished to more modern standards. A farewell tour taking place on the same day as the 313, although the less to say about that, the better. The HS2s of Cross Country, coming to the end of its time with the operator in September 2023, a farewell tour taking place in the same month, marking another closed chapter for the legendary machines. The Class 508s of Merseyrail, bowing out in January this year, officially handing their legacy over to the Class 777s, with Class 507s yet to follow by December. Both units conducted huge farewell tours before retirement, with 507s luckily receiving 2. Now the only version of PEP-derived stock due to be left in service in the UK are the carriages sandwiched in some Class 455s. The Class 319, retiring from both LNER and Northern in November 2023 and January of this year, bringing an end to 36 years of tormenting passengers everywhere they went. Good times. The second generation stock on the Glasgow subway, retiring after nearly 45 years in June. The Class 707 of Southwestern Railway, with the final pair of units eventually transferring to Southeastern in September, marking the end of their time on the Southwestern Main Line. We just won't talk of the first attempt they had at leaving back in November last year. And finally, the West Midlands Railway Class 323, closing the curtains for the last time in the West Midlands following their excellent farewell tour in late September. A majority of the trains living their new lives with Northern, while the rest await their uncertain fate. All of those trains will be greatly missed, and of course, rest in peace to the late railway legends Adrian Shooter and Sir Kenneth Grange, two significant people that contributed so much to our network. Now for the honourable mentions. And those are all your main headlines. In other news, and jokes aside, Class 175s will soon be beginning their new lives with Great Western Railway, operating on services around Devon and Cornwall, and not long left for the 458/5s, as all 28 units have undergone full refurbishment and not many of the rest still remain in service. Some withdrawn locomotives were exported to different countries. In 2023, all 16 former Freightliner Class 86s were sent to work in Bulgaria, 11 HS2 power cars were exported to Mexico, then one crashed, and 10 power cars are now in Nigeria. They better serve some good jollof rice on board. And a few other HST power cars formerly of Cross Country were transferred to Collis Rail. A number of former Avanti Class 221s were transferred to Cross Country after the arrival of Class 805s. Class 150s have returned to the Marston Vale following closure of the line for months due to the loss of Class 230s. Speaking of 230s, battery trials have successfully commenced on GWR's D-Train units on the Greenford branch, as well as the company taking full control of the project of Viva Rail. Plus, not only them, but Transpennine Express also have a battery-powered IET. Very cool. Chiltern Railways unveiled the first of their newly refurbished Class 168s, featuring a brand new corporate livery and heavily refreshed interiors. The entire fleet is planned to receive this new treatment over the next couple of years, along with Class 165s receiving a lighter refresh starting by 2025. Class 395 Javelins are undergoing internal refreshes by Southeastern, with the first few units already back in service. EMR also announced a £60 million refurbishment program across their entire regional fleet, with the Class 360s of which finally due to be fitted with 2+2 seating, charging points, luggage racks and new PIS displays. And Class 357s will be refurbished too as part of an £8.8 million contract, with work towards repairing and repainting of the trains taking place by Alstom at Ilford Depot over a 2-year period. Pay-as-you-go travel has been extended across various TOCs, including SWR, LNER, Southeastern, C2C and Chiltern. The first fully refurbished 1992 stock for the Central line, complete with new seat maquettes, information displays and traction motors, is now in service. Shock! It's not going down too well. Let's just say that this refurbishment program has really placed the 92 stocks on their last legs. Paddington's new step-free access tube station just outside the main station has officially opened, along with a nice new development around it. Speaking of train stations, several brand new stops have opened across the UK, including in no particular order, Ashley Down in Bristol, Brent Cross West in London, Reading Green Park in Reading, Thanet Parkway in Kent, Inverness Airport, East Linton, Leven and Cameron Bridge in Scotland, Marsh Barton in Devon, Portway Park and Ride in Bristol, Headbolt Lane in Merseyside and Bond Street in London. What? It was the last Elizabeth line station to open. Oh shush Gary, I know I'm late. New Class 810 trains for East Midlands Railway, the only addition of the IET to look like a duck, are currently on test runs along the Midland Main Line, with their expected entry into service planned for next year. Pictures of their interiors were also released, and they look quite nice. Even more pride liveries were introduced on several train units by various operators. 444019, which had a redesign a while ago, the LU Battery Loco, 378205, 345055, 725006, 755421, 730018, 801226, 803003, 175001, 176018, 220005, and 802213 are all officially gay. Whew, that was a lot. LNER has gone ham with giving some of their Zoomers special promotional liveries. To compete with EMR's mascot Miles, they have their own mascot named Eleanor, and now she's been plastered all over the front ends of 801225. 801228 was named Century, celebrating 100 years of the LNER brand. 801204 was named Our Planet, promoting sustainable travel. 800-106 was named You Belong, celebrating 5 years of their partnership with Calm. And 800-111 was named Thank You in celebration of Remembrance Day. In their head up towards Eurovision 2023, 350-104, 397011 and 777013 were all seen in Eurovision promotional designs, with 350-104 being the only unit to survive in these colours to this very day. 2 Class 37s were recently repainted, 37250 into EWS colours and 37901 into Trainload colours. 185111 was wrapped into an Andes Man Club livery, raising awareness for men's mental health. Eurostar wrapped 2 Class 374 sets into gold, supporting Team GB in the Paris 2024 Olympics. Ah, so we must have done well then. Eurostar also rebranded following their merger with Thales, and is it better than the previous brand? No. 2 Voyagers were transferred to Grand Central and received the most half-assed new livery imaginable. Like, come on, you had one job. GB Rail Freight unveiled the first of their Stadler Class 99 hybrid locos, which I hope to be delivered by spring 2025. Freightliner unveiled a new 60-year anniversary livery on 70008. Greater Manchester unveiled huge plans to expand their B network, allowing for seamless travel across buses, trams and even trains by 2028. Test trains have run for the first time between Oxford and Milton Keynes on the soon to come East West Rail line.
Hello my friends, Class 379s will soon be returning and entering service with Great Northern, allowing some 387 units to be moved elsewhere, and this line could have been re-recorded by Yawwie, but he chose to keep me instead. Funny.
Some retired trains have been preserved, including 313201 at Eastleigh, a second-gen Glasgow subway car at the Riverside Museum, the last vehicle of 508201 at the East Kent Railway, and soon 507001, don't know where. Southwestern Railway completed the repaint of all of their Zeros, meaning the end of 444s and 450s in iconic stagecoach colours and even original SWR vinyls. SWR train announcements have changed, with Eleanor Hamilton being the new voice across most of the fleet.
This is Wandsworth Town. This train is for London Waterloo. The next station is Clapham Junction.
I don't like it.
And the Elizabeth line announcements were recently upgraded and no longer sound stupidly basic.
This is an Elizabeth line service to Shenfield via Stratford. The next station is Whitechapel.
The very good. And lastly, in Scottish news, peak time rail fares were briefly scrapped in a scheme which lasted a number of months, then unscrapped because... And ScotRail's Inter-7 City HS2s are set to eventually be replaced in an announcement made by the Scottish Government, and people have speculated their replacements to be no other than...
Oh my god!
Yeah, I mean, it's not actually a bad shout to be honest. Finally, we will now go over to our train correspondent, John, who is currently live on the Tyne and Wear Metro network. How's it going over there, John? That's right, I forgot to ask for permission to film. Thanks, John! That's the end of the video. Once again, I can only apologise for how long it has taken me to release this. However, I hope the video was still worth the wait, and I'll try not to let this happen again. You lot have been fantastic for your patience, contributions and continued support, and as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.